grade. We're moving right on into chapter 25 today, title of which is Toward a New Millennium, because we are heading toward the year 2000. Actually heading toward when some of you were born. That just messes with my head. Anyway, chapter 25, a threat to nationalism, the New World Order, talks about the UN, talks about President George H.W. Bush. President George H.W. Bush. Euro, NAFTA, all these different organizations. Not going into any of that, you can read 25.1. This video is kind of for Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday, you'll read all of 25.1. You'll read about half of 25.2. Tomorrow, Wednesday, you'll read the other half of 25.2 and read 25.3. 25.2. Trouble in the Middle East. While world leaders were distracted with events in Eastern Europe, a major crisis developed in the Middle East. In August 1990, Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq, invaded the tiny little kingdom of Kuwait. Now, what you got to keep in mind is Kuwait was a very oil-rich country. Hence the reason we were all very interested in what was going on in this tiny little country because of its oil. We also found out that there was a possibility that Hussein was trying to get nuclear weapons, nuclear capability. So the decision was made by the UN to go in and free Kuwait. We give him a deadline to liberate Kuwait. Hussein doesn't do it. We go in January of 91, Operation Desert Storm. For nearly 6 weeks, coalition of forces took the offensive and began round-the-clock bombing of Iraqi troop positions. The interesting thing about Operation Desert Storm was two things. First of all, we've got both of which have to do with new technology. Number one, we have new technology as far as weapons. Smart bombs, which literally were so smart that the saying was they could literally target a house and go in through the front door. That may have been a slight exaggeration, but these were extremely accurate bombs, which meant less civilian casualties because they would go exactly where they were supposed to go. The other thing was, for the first time, the people back home were getting real-time updates. What was happening all the way across the globe in the Middle East with them fighting, we were able to watch at home on our TVs. For you all, it's like, yeah, so what? That's the way life is. For all of us who grew up before this time, this was a new thing. So thanks to this new weaponry, the war only lasted 2.5 months, which is the shortest war in U.S. history. Colin Powell and Norman Schwarzkopf were the two leaders. Bush was the commander-in-chief, but he realized he needed to listen to the military guys. Colin Powell's not mentioned in the 7th grade book. He was the dude who stayed home and kind of led things at home. Schwarzkopf is the one that was on the ground leading things. Then it goes into the Clinton presidency. Not going to say a whole lot about it. There was a whole lot of controversy with the Clinton administration. We'll just leave it at that. 25.2 continues with changes in Central America, changes in Russia, with change in presidency there. Continuing to talk about Russia, ongoing issues there. Then we go into 25.3, which, so as I said, Wednesday you'll read the last half of 25.2 and read all of 25.3. 25.3, you know, is some of my least favorite stuff because it's about literature and music. I love literature. I love musicals. I don't like reading about the history of them. I will just be perfectly honest. But there's a lot of really great names here. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which of course is your Sherlock Holmes guy. You've got Hemingway, Eliot, Fitzgerald. At least we're getting into guys that I know better. Orwell, who wrote 1984, a book you'll read in high school that I really like. You get into 20th century music with not modern music. We're still in classic music and guys that you probably have never even heard of. Then we get into, and backtracking to as far as authors. Corrie ten Boom. If you've never read her book, The Hiding Place, highly suggested. It's a really good book. Then we get into the 20th century art. Rockwell is one of the most famous people, one of the ones I know the best from that time period, and they have a picture of him there. Then we get into architecture. So that is 25.3. You will have a quiz on 25.1, 22, 25.1, 25.2, and 25.3. Then on Thursday, I'm just going to keep going here. On Thursday, you'll read 25.4, which is Advances in Science. What is the movie I'm thinking of, Bailey? Is the title of the movie Big Hero 6 with the little tiny robot with the blow-up guy? Yeah. Is the title of the movie Big Hero 6?
Yes.
Yes. When you look at the picture on page 405, if you've seen the movie Big Hero 6, it should remind you of that. Because if you remember from Big Hero 6, you have all those little tiny robots that came together to make something. The carbon nanotube they have there on page 405 always reminds me of that movie. So I will see you later.